Rising is important.
You feeling good? Looking good?
Yeah, we live.
Live.
Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm so
Don't
nervous.
be. Don't be.
Look, this
Family.
is-
When you're here, your family.
Thank you.
Welcome to Colony Kids SOS, the Yeti Out version.
Yeah.
This is for anybody who's not or who's listening for the first time. Colony Kids SOS is a little series that we started this year to talk to creatives, artists, partners we've worked with, et cetera, and kind of just check in with them and see how they're feeling with, in crisis and the chaos that 2020 has presented itself as. So today we are happy to have Mr. Arthur Bray, Arthur Yeti. 1/3 of Yeti Out? Is that 1/3 or is it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a growing family. I guess one third, 1/4. I mean, I guess founders is obviously me, Tom, and Eri. Like Tom's my twin brother. Eri's my best friend from university. But then Subi's definitely a day one as well. And then Akira, like Fergus, Yeti family, like just the list goes on, man. Leo, fucking like London crew, like Dre, Adam, Jerome. Yeah, I'll stop there because. Yeah. It depends how many people take up guest list.
Exactly, right? So for those who may not know you, can you introduce yourself, a proper introduction? Who is Arthur Bray?
My name's Arthur. Damn, I feel like I'm at a casting or something, bro. Like
Casting couch.
My name's Arthur. And I guess I work on different projects in music and events and fashion sometimes, and like footwear, and they just have different ideas that come out in different forms. And a lot of times I just hide them under this silly pseudonym called Yeti Out.
And why Yeti Out? What's the meaning behind that? And how long has it
these
been around?
sensitive questions, bro. You know what I mean?
This is the hard hitting. This is the Oprah interview.
Okay.
The interview to end all interviews.
Trying to get to the grits. Okay. Why Yeti? I guess because, hey, we all have a Yeti in us and we're going to let it out, man. I just feel like, that's a certain energy that, that everyone has, man. Even though not everyone's super open about it, I feel like everyone has a little bit of insane in them and they should just bring it out now and again, especially when it's nighttime and, and the music is on.
So the whole Yeti Out project, I feel like, if I remember correctly, was born when you were in uni in UK.
Yeah.
And what was the original idea when you guys first conceived it, and how has it evolved from then?
I think a lot's changed, but the core of it is still the same. Like we're just, super fans of music, new music, old music, and that's always just going to be at the core of Yeti Out. Like promoting stuff that we're excited about. I guess when it first started, it was. I remember I was in Brighton for university. And I just spent a pretty crazy weekend in Manchester where Tom was studying, and we went to like Sankey's and.
First of all, let me interrupt you so you can explain that you are one of two twins.
Yes.
And you are from Hong Kong originally.
Yeah.
But also half British.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Hong Kong. My mom's from HK. My dad's from the UK. So naturally I would spend a bit of time in London, Brighton, and abroad. And then I've been back now for like 8 years. So just been back and forth for a little bit. Like we were both in the UK, but Tom was in Manchester. I was in Brighton, and I went to visit him, and we had a pretty crazy weekend. I think it was Warehouse Project or Sankey's that we went out to, and then I came back down to Brighton, and I was literally just sitting in the living room with Erison, who was my housemate, and we came up with a name called Yeti in the Basement, which ended up being our blog. This is pre-Instagram. This was WordPress days, and we pretty much had this blog with a silly name, and we basically went around interviewing artists that we were into, and pretty much like blagging free guest list and press passes, and going to shows for free. And I think when you're like 18 and 19, and you get to go see like all this new exciting music, then as a press or media person, just because you have a blog, we were just pretty stoked about the whole thing, and we were quite excited about it. So that's kind of how like so what jump started the whole adventure of what Yeti Out ended up being. Yeah.
And were there a lot of other like party promoters around at that time, or?
Yeah, loads. I mean, at uni, everyone's promoting music. Everyone's a music head, like, and it's like a really cool vibe because everyone's sort of encouraging each other, and you have the kids that are really into indie, and the kids really into drum and bass and dubstep, and the break scene was really heavy in Brighton. Like, they had Cage Baby and like Adam Freeland and Staten Warriors, playing every Wednesday. These really big names that would just be touring the student circuit. So it was just, yeah, for me, like coming from Hong Kong, I wasn't really exposed to any of that. So it just really sort of expanded my appetite for like new good music. Like I think up to 18, I was, just into like hip hop and like trip hop. And then I think the internet came in about like 2004, 2005, and then that sort of opened the mind of like listening to like anything you could get could download on Morpheus. And then right before I left for the UK, the rave scene was also coming to an end, and I remember going to Kai Tech or Cyberport and catching Tall Paul Van Dyke, and like Tiesto, like So then my idea of raving was always like very much into like trance and like glow sticks, And I remember when I went to like Brighton for uni, and I was like, yo, let's go to a rave. And then I remember like rocking down, like going to a drum and bass arena anniversary, and it was like Groove Rider, DJ Hype. It was like a proper drum and bass jungle night, and I went down there with a neon blue shirt, some glow sticks, and like a top knot, a top of hair, and everyone's like, what the hell's this guy doing? Like, and everyone's in hoodies and like track pants because it's a drum and bass party. Everyone just like got the hood up and just dancing, and they're like, who's this guy? Why is he like dressed up for a rave? So yeah, I definitely screwed that one up, but yeah, a lot of people asked me for drugs that night.
All right, so we're gonna pivot real quick to I guess your day job, or what was your day job? You were the editor of Hypebeast, and for how long was that? For like 5?
6 years. I think.
6 years,
yes.
yeah, up until like 2018.
Yeah, just before like end of 2017.
Okay, so just how do you connect like lifestyle, music, fashion, and do you still what you did with Hypebeast? How does that inform your work now? Do you still do that through Yeti Out or through freelance or?
Yeah. I think like Yeti in the Basement was a blog before we started doing parties. So there was always an interest in like documenting and writing stories. Like I think obviously when I went and joined Hypebeast full time, the topics changed and it was more about fashion and footwear. But yeah, I think there's definitely parallels between what I did before and then what I was doing at Hypebeast, which was very much about like editorial and like content making and stuff like that. I think Hypebeast was fun, because it was definitely a wide range of topics you could cover. If you were into music, there was Hype Track. If you were into like runway fashion, there was like you could write about the high end stuff, like, or if you were into food, there's like Hypebeast Eats and stuff like that. So I think that served a really cool sort of couple years for me to really like explore what the whole world was about. But yeah, I think like when you're working for someone, you're always on like least time, right? You get to a point where you kind of want to do your own thing as well. So I think Hypebeast opened a lot of doors, and I learned a lot. So forever grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after Hypebeast, you had a lot of time for for yourself to work out your own schedule, and that was going well, I'm sure, until 2020 when the pandemic happened.
Right.
And you can't travel as freely as you'd probably like to. How has that changed your life, and how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? Because it's like I feel like everyone who is worked in the industry has like if you're a promoter or you're like a artist booker or manager or you work at a label, like for the most part, like everyone's had to like switch roles a little bit, so like before only a few people were doing radio and live streaming, and like now everyone's doing live streaming. So now everyone's like, this included, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
come to my show. Like everyone's like a journalist, and everyone's like, come to my show. Let's talk about what you've been up to. And then it's like in reality, like, everyone's on each other's shows, and it's like, what have you been up to? It's like, well, actually, fuck all. Like, I've just been sitting at home waiting for this to end, So it's just like, so you're just sort of tuning to each other's radio shows and listening to each other trying to make up interesting stories or like meta quotes about how they've been coping with COVID, but really we're all just fucking at a loss, you know what I mean?
But I think within that waiting, like it's not that you aren't doing anything, right? Like you aren't you like, I mean, because
but who cares about what you've been doing during COVID though, right? It's just I feel like
people have been reflecting.
Yeah, true.
I feel like people have picked up new projects. Like for example, Leo's working on music more. People are hunkering down and working on whatever their project may be. And I think you said you were cooking more because you have more of a domestic lifestyle. That's interesting.
That is, right? But put it this way, like if it wasn't for COVID, there wouldn't be as many live streams, and then you wouldn't really be asking other people about what they've been up to. Because like if I was really like ready to talk about cooking, I would be talking about cooking like when there's an actual radio opportunity, right? But it's like now it's like, it's kind of like, normally when you do media, you kind of like, I don't know, you work on an album and then the record drops and then you talk about the record, right?
Yeah.
But now, instead of doing that, it's just like, everyone's like, oh, so what have you been up to? It's like, well, I've been brushing my teeth a lot and been trying to practice this yoga thing, but realize it's not really part of what I'm about, But hey, if that's interesting, let's talk about that too.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Domestic lifestyle, healthy choices. I mean, especially because we talked about this a few months ago. We did this. It's kind of like another live stream type thing, radio for some. I don't even remember all the details, but the New York radio, and we were talking about aging, getting older, and also being about this lifestyle, being about the culture, and like how do you transition into not being able to party, not having the stamina to party like every weekend, and maybe like. So like, how about that? What can you speak on to that? Like, and not wanting to party so much, and also not having the stamina to party so much. Do you feel like there's a transition, or do you feel like there's a change in your behavior, in your patterns when it comes to like nightlife, when it comes to your musical selection, et cetera, et cetera?
For sure. I mean, going back to like I think that definitely affects like sort of what I've been up to, because I guess it's like with like the COVID stuff, you can't really, obviously everyone's locked in and you're sort of spending more time with your thoughts, so naturally when you do go out again, you sort of I guess, I mean, that whole social anxiety thing is something I've heard that most people have been having to deal with, because it's kind of like you're kind of taken back by like, people were like, how do you socialize? I mean, what is that anyway? Like, we're in the age of like internet friends, and like that's sort of like been accelerated by so much more because we're on our phones all the time anyway, and then we're actually on our phones more. And I think, going back to your question about like going out and how has that changed? And I feel like we went to a party on the weekend, on Saturday it was, and it was just like people just going hard, it's just like they, there was no, I feel like, I don't know, maybe that party was particularly like different, but I feel like there was no like gradual build up or like, you flirt with the crowd with like, some old jams and new jams. People were just like, no, we're going hard. We're going 150 BPM. Let's go, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I think we've sort of had this conversation a few times about like selectors and what DJs you're into or what you listen to or I'm into. And it always kind of ends up talking about people who are sort of very sort of wide in the different references they choose in their selection. Mm-hmm. And I feel like perhaps like when things do start to go back to normal, there's just people just gonna want to get on it and like just kind of go for it, man. Just get mashed up, like no chill,
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I feel like it's made people appreciate maybe those moments more.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's different ways to look at it. So maybe if you maybe when people go back to partying, it won't be so much about getting fucked up, you know? Maybe it'll be about like just the actual honest communal feel of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
or maybe a mix. I don't know. Who's to say?
Yeah, or some people might not even go out like they used to because you realize that hey, you can enjoy good quality music and have drinks at home, and like you don't have to be at a sweaty place anymore, and you can have select friends that come to your environment and hang out there instead. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you know, versus like having to like you know, the club isn't like really that attractive to a lot of people who don't enjoy you know smoky rooms or like
Yeah.
disgusting toilets, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's just gonna be new ways of having fun and enjoying music and conversations in a different setting. Like I think that's always existed, you know, like house parties and stuff like that. But I think it's become more evident this year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of leads to my next question. Like, how do you see the pandemic affecting like creative industries in the future? So for music, but also for fashion and art and exhibitions and everything else that Yeti Out is involved in.
Yeah. I guess it's like sort of it's allowed everyone a bit of time to think about what they should keep doing and what they shouldn't continue doing. You know, like just a more reflection time in terms of yeah, thinking about like you know what's actually like valuable. You know, like not everything. You know, there's so much content out there. It's like
Yeah.
like what are you adding to this world?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, again, it's like just trying to find more meaning and purpose in everything that you do.
But so how does Yeti Out find meaning in like content and in branding when, for example, you guys do a lot of shirts. How do you find meaning in that when like you know there's a lot of shirts out there, and how do you set yourself apart from the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good. We definitely are aware of that as well, and we don't want to be adding too much more, which is why we've kind of started to do this whole pre-order thing as well. So we're not just like making stuff for the sake of making it and then trying to sell it and like you know give people a reason to buy these things, like you know whether that reason is like a marketing reason or whatnot, you know. So you know we just want to create stuff that we're really stoked about while keeping in mind the environment, you know. But yeah, like you know, like the minibus party that we did, we try not to just put out T-shirts without it sort of being associated with like an event or like with a project, you know. Like it should always be an extension of something else that we've been working on, you know, versus like the T-shirt just being the end product, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's always just sort of been like the DNA of how we create our projects, you know, for things to live online, but also like in real life experiences, you know, which we haven't been able to do so much recently because we haven't been able to do shows. But I think yeah, gigs and events are super important in that world.
And what are some of the recent Yeti collaborations that you can tell us about?
Yeah, we did a Nike shoe last month. Working on something with Overwatch League later in the year. Yeah, just like collaborating with the homies like Zeem, who's a writer in Hong Kong. He's a bit, you know, he's a local legend. Always thinking about stuff with like the crew, you know, like Leo from OK, Kashmir Pullover, those guys. Like shout out Bedford crew. Yeah, I think it's sort of freeform, you know. Just like a lot of times you just have these ideas and you're jamming and then you're like, hey, let's do something, and then it just kind of comes out, you know. Like we don't really follow too much of a plan. I don't know, that should probably change, you know. Maybe we need to be more strategic. I mean, we did the after party for the Louis Vuitton show in Shanghai. That was pretty fun. But I don't know, is that even a collaboration? What is a collab? I don't know. The idea of collabing has also been sort of so like, I don't know, it just doesn't mean the same thing anymore.
Let's collab,
anyway.
fam.
Let's collab, bro. Yeah.
I mean, do all those?
What is a collab?
Do all those partnerships? I mean, I would say a collaboration, in its simplest form, is like Yeti cross Nike or Yeti cross.
Yeah, but that's more of a that's how you build something, right? Like it's like a title, but it's like if you got asked to do something in someone else's space or whatever. Is that collaboration?
Depends. I guess it depends on the terms of behind it. Like, do you have a creative voice in it? If it's just like they're
Commission
hiring
work.
you, that's commission work maybe isn't so much of a collab.
Right, but here's the thing, right? Because I think
It depends, though.
we're in a world now where like everyone has such short attention spans.
Yeah.
And I think brands and especially corporate organizations know that. So, you know, even if it's a hard work and like, you know, you're sort of, you know, it's a paid for job where you come and just do your thing, but under someone else's direction, you know, when people is glancing on that on social media, whatever, it's a collab, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like and I think people, like certain brands understand that, you know, people are so quick to make these sort of decisions that, you know, that's why the idea of a collab is often exploited in maybe exploiting is a strong word, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, because and again, maybe this isn't even the brand's fault. It's just that we are so quick to make these associations that actually, you know, a collaboration, like you said earlier, it's like, hey, two people sitting in a room coming up with a new thing that has both these people's ideas in it, right? But a lot of times, you know, like, you know, if you get booked to DJ a brand event, is that a collab? Maybe not, right? But then on the flyer it has both your names on it.
Do you feel like there are brands that want to kind of exploit the Yeti Out name for the sake of?
Phew, phew, phew. No, I wouldn't say. I just say you just got to be aware. You just got to be aware of like where you know where you stand as a creative, where, you know, where the person stands who's reaching out to you, and just how the whole game works, you know what I mean? And it's like, just, you know, just be aware of it, you know, I think.
So what you have worked on so far, like the Nike and you said Outer League,
Overwatch League.
Overwatch League. So those have all come
these all
organically. Like,
yep. I mean, everything that we do is organic. It's through friends of friends, relationships we've built over the years. You know, just sort of, you know, sort of like connections that we've built by just working in this world of like music and editorial for like the last 10 years, you know. So, and they've all been super genuine. They're not like, you know, the Coach thing happened. We did a capsule collection for Coach Global last year as well, which was kind of insane, like seeing our designs that we created, you know, over a chat group, you know, in Dubai airport, you know, on layover, you know, that was insane.
That's crazy.
But yeah, and those are all super organic conversations. You know, we got talking to the creative director of Coach, and he's you know, he lived in Manchester for a bit, and he went to the Hacienda and all that kind of, all those clubs, you know, and was big fans of, like, you know, Happy Mondays and you know, Paradise Factory and all that. And Tom spent a few years in Manchester and went to Paradise Factory. I'm sorry, went to it was a club where Factory Records was. I think it was Paradise Factory.
Okay.
Yeah, so they turned the record. Sorry, they turned the record.
I know Factory Records in Detroit, but maybe that's a different Factory Records.
Oh yeah, Factory Records that like signed Happy Mondays and that.
Okay.
I'm gonna fact check. Yeah, so basically, like, yeah, like that the record label HQ got turned into a club, and Tom was going there a lot. And I guess the conversation with the Coach creative director started just by talking about club culture up north and that. And then, you know, I think they wanted to work on something in Shanghai. So then, yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. So a lot of times it's just like genuine conversation. So we're lucky to be able to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think always. Yeah, just I think going back to your question, it's just always like kind of be aware and if it is a collaboration, try and ensure that your aesthetics is definitely in there. And,
yeah, exactly. Your
know,
fingerprints are on that.
100%.
Do you feel like the more that you work with, the more that Yeti Out works with bigger brands, the more you just realize that these brands are just people behind them, and you're less, I guess, awestruck that, you know, oh, we're working with blah blah blah, like such a big name now, like, but it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, these bigger brands are just like a bunch of people around a table with ideas, just like you guys. So do you feel like that legitimizes you guys at a certain point? And okay, we're working with a brand, you know, such and such a big brand, and it's not such a big deal anymore.
Yeah, I never really think it's that big a deal, because having worked on, you know, having had different roles working in the industry before, I've also been on the other side of the table, like,
Yeah.
Tapping on young creatives to collaborate, and never get too big-headed or too stoked about things, because at the end of the day, it's a commerce game, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, some people might look at something and be like, oh yeah, that's so sick that you got that cosign or whatever. And I mean, as a kid that grew up wearing Nikes, you'd be stoked to have a pair of Nike shoes, but you also understand that the grander scheme of things is that you know it's a business as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think it's nice to really work on projects, and just be aware of that, be like, hey, like, if I think for me anyway, I'm just excited to share my ideas in an editorial story, or create product, whether it's a pair of sneakers or I don't know, a candle or something like that. So if the opportunity presents itself, then for sure that'd be really cool, but never sort of like just never let that sort of you know what I mean? Like, sort of get too carried away with the
Gas you up.
buzz,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Silk Road Sounds, and
Yeah.
because we've talked about kind of fashion stuff, I want to talk about more music stuff. So what is Silk Road Sounds?
I think, yeah, it's I guess it's a modern day record label. It's an extension of what Yeti Out is. I think Yeti Out over the years has sort of evolved into multiple different projects, whether it's like us creating apparel, booking shows, managing tours, managing artists, or making zines. And it's quite ad hoc, because like I said earlier, it was like, if we're into something, we're just gonna do it. And me and Tom are quite similar in the sense that we're just like, we kind of we just bounce ideas, and we don't like, we don't really sort of structure our ideas too much, so that, Yeti's sort of become its beast, sort of become a beast of its own. But along the journey, we've met a lot of cool artists and cool musicians that we want to work with, but we don't necessarily want it to be under the Yeti Out label, because Yeti Out is anything we want it to be, but we want the Silk Road to just be a music focused project, so I think it's fine for it to be adjacent, but we wanted these artists to have their own sort of platform, and it's not even really about Silk Road, it's about the artists themselves.
Yeah.
I just feel like if we sort of turn Yeti Out into a label, it would just sort of get lost in the noise, because each week we have different t-shirt releases, or like we might be doing a party or something like that, and I think it's important for these artists just to sort of get the support, or the benefits of what we've sort of built with Yeti Out, but it can just live under something else completely. And the name itself is sort of it's literal and figurative, right? Like, I'm mixed heritage, like half Chinese, half English, and a lot of the artists that we've worked with have sort of are sort of like the bridge east and west as well, like whether it's Demon Slayer, who makes Vietnamese footwork, or Seb, DJ Yakuza, who does like drum and bass, or but with Chinese samples in there and whatnot. And so it's not really like very curated that you have to have these sort of elements. It's just that by chance the people that we've sort of worked with do sort of combine these worlds, and I think that's really exciting. We've spoken to NYPD before, and they essentially sample all these different sounds, from like post-punk to techno to like Nam Yum, which is like, I guess, this opium folk type style, so I think all that stuff is really interesting. And again, it's just another project that lives in this sort of world that we sort of created, so we're just excited about that. Yeah.
What does community mean to you in all these projects, and what do you think, is there anything special about the creative community in Hong Kong?
Community. What does community mean? I guess it's like just people supporting each other. Is that right? I'm trying to think what the dictionary definition of that is. Community is like people helping each other, and being supportive, and I think that's it.
And then about the Hong Kong community, is there anything special? So you've traveled a lot, but you've lived in Manchester or Brighton.
Yeah, the UK. Yeah,
and
London,
then
London.
Just comparing even just those two, what do you see about the Hong Kong community, and is there anything special about it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely special. I think Hong Kong itself, like, you sort of have different, you have sort of different relationships with it, like depending on different years, or as you grow, it changes as well. You know, like the Hong Kong that I knew, you know, 2000 to 2008 was, you know, it's different to what I know now, and it's like, and that's not. I mean, obviously the city changes and, like, you know, reclaim land and all the rest of it. You're just losing. You know, the Star Ferry takes about 5 minutes now. You know, what I mean? Like before it was like a half hour, bro. Like, but yeah, I just feel like, yeah, obviously Hong Kong changes, but then you also sort of change as well, right? So I think the community, like, aspect, the creative community always changes. So I think at the end of the day, like, I think people just are super enthusiastic and stoked here, and there is a support system. You know, I feel like obviously things could be better sometimes, but I'm just sort of tired about complaining about that now. You know what I mean? Like this, I feel like the conversation always ends up at like, oh, the rent is so expensive. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, let's just not talk about that. Let's just, I just think, yeah, we're good, man. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening. You know, I think, you know, like most people might know Hong Kong, but the, you know, the Canton film era. Yeah, it depends what you're into, man. Like film, there's that. You know, like if you want to talk about like band scene, there's a huge, you know, because of Hidden Agenda and all that. I'm sure that was, and obviously like Triple X as well, right? So there's multiple variations of that, these worlds that have sort of like branched out, and I think, yeah, it is a small community to an extent, but yeah, I think I'm excited about it. I think this year I've been more excited about it. You gotta cut me off, man, because I'm just ranting.
No.
Let's not get myself in trouble, bro.
No, so as an extension of that question,
Yeah.
how would you define this generation? However you perceive that question, how would you define this generation?
Well, that's a big question. How to define this generation in Hong Kong?
Or yeah, I meant Hong Kong specifically. But you can speak.
I think like some of the younger lot that have been DJing and been you know, sort of also been part of the lineup for these sort of parties that we've been going to. They've all got such eclectic taste, you know, because I think partially because, you know, like everyone's interest has broadened because of the internet, you know, but also just like, I think because we're limited with certain shows or whatnot here, that, you know, I think maybe somehow that increases the appetite for people to want more, maybe perhaps. But I think, yes, in general, I'm super impressed by, like, you know, the kids and how they just so multifaceted in terms of like what they do, and how they can just like obviously, you know, play the show, but also do the flyer and the 3D animation and create the visuals. And, you know, we didn't really, like, I don't say we, but like I just think I feel like there was more like when I was you know, a teenager and shit, like you had to like do certain courses, you know, like you had to spend X amount of time before you could do certain things. But I feel like everyone just can apply certain like skill sets onto another medium now, and it just seems a lot more fluent in that sense, you know. So I'm super excited and super impressed, and yeah, just like the DJs that are playing these parties now, like they got such great selection, you know. So yeah.
And what's been your biggest, excuse me, your biggest realization in the last year?
Biggest realization. Maybe I need to like manage my time better. I don't know. Like I feel like, yeah, a bit ADD, man. Like just sort of like always need to like. Damn, this is like I'm like talking to a shrink, dude. Like,
I can be that.
Yo,
We're
can
here.
you get that for me?
When you're here, your family.
Yo, it all started happening when my brother was born.
Wait, who's older between you and Tom?
Oh man, can't be trade secrets, fam. I can't just
Damn.
like, no, I'm a little bit older.
Oh shit! Okay,
Yeah,
I could tell.
That's a tiny. What does that mean, bro? What?
Slightly aged.
Slightly aged.
Wrinkles.
Oh, what? No, come on, man. I mean, be
No, actually,
moisturizing.
he's. I would have guessed if I had known. I would have guessed he was older.
Why is that?
He seems like a little bit more like.
Doesn't chat as much rubbish.
More. He's a bit like more
Sure.
mature and focused. I guess. I don't know. A tad bit. No shots. No
Oh
shots.
God, yo, these
Oh,
these
shit.
words, bro.
Damn.
Airing me, bro. Airing me. Jeez.
But
yeah.
no, I only have like a limited kind of experience around him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he's.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good that we're in different cities and like because I think what we do is quite similar, and it's good just to be able to have our own space as well. But still miss you, mate.
Oh, do you guys text like every day?
Yeah, we got it, man. We run a sort of
Business together.
quote unquote business, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got multiple groups, man. Like WeChat, WhatsApp, Slack. Like it's just sort of quite a retarded way of functioning a business, but it works to an extent.
If you guys were gonna fight, what would you be fighting over?
I so
Girl.
like no, not really. But I did take his like South Pole. Do you remember that brand South
Yeah,
Pole?
like the Bubba Goose jacket.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I took his South Pole shirt, his South Pole T-shirt back in the day when we were like 16, and I remember wearing it.
Yeah.
I went to Causeway, and like we had like Zanga pages or whatever back then. This is like it's MSN era, right?
Yeah.
I remember there's a photo of me on like someone's Zanga page of me wearing his South Pole shirt, and it's like, bro, you can't just be taking my T-shirts out my closet, man. Like that's not fly, bro. Like I bought that, you know what I mean? So I remember vividly that we were arguing about that. We were just talking yesterday because me and Leo were watching. So like we were watching this, like we were just deep in the YouTube wormhole, and I was just thinking about what happened to MySpace. So we just started talking about like old like social media sites and stuff like that. And I remember me and Tom started a MySpace page called Trendy Supreme, and where we had like photos like Nelly and like Jadakiss and like all these rappers that we were really into, but we were photoshopping. We used to go to Shenzhen to buy like fake Gucci Air Force Ones, but they were so real because we had the plug that was like, it was like A4, like just, and we bought the shoes, and then we shoot product shots or whatnot. And then we pretty much like Photoshop these like Gucci Air Force Ones onto like Nelly and like Jadakiss, and we made this site. We were like, yeah, they're just rocking these shoes that we got, man.
And you
like,
sell them?
Yeah, it was like fake news, dude. That's how fake news started. But I mean, we didn't really get any business because it was like terrible like Photoshop skills, man.
And it was not like kids these days.
No, exactly. That's why like shout out the
Didn't
kids
have
these
the
days.
YouTube tutorials.
Yeah, so that was sort of like a little. Yeah.
Heidi mentioned, remember the 3 C's. I don't know what that was in reference
jeez.
to.
Hi, why is anyone even watching this?
If anybody out there has any questions, leave it on Facebook, and I'll
shout out
ask.
Heidi.
So yeah, what does Yeti have planned for the rest of the year, or just for the foreseeable future?
Are we saying Yeti? Yeti is, I guess, like
Yeti Out.
Like going with the flow, man. Like
Or what were some of the things that are postponed that were supposed to happen this year?
Yeah, I mean, we were going, like, March was pretty stacked, man. Like we had a residency at Beam Club in Bangkok for the last 2 years, where we would go monthly. So yeah, we would I think last year we were pretty much on the flow, and we had a residency at Cake Shop and Bangkok, and we were about to start one in Singapore as well. So that was like 3 cities every month. So yeah, I think we had a momentum going, but then obviously everything got cancelled. And then in February, I think we were hoping that like things would get back to normal by March. So then March was looking pretty stacked because we were gonna do our first Yeti Out party in Dubai, and I was super excited about that. And then we were gonna do another Yeti Out party in Mumbai the week after that as well.
Wow.
But then everything got cancelled. So like I was just like sitting around waiting to get back on the road. And so yeah, I think it's sort of been an interesting year where we just work on like different projects and just sort of, working on music and different formats. We've got this radio show with Clock and Flat that's we're gonna air soon. So we collaborate with Likewise, which is a video crew with Ollie Rogers and them guys, and they have an awesome studio in Leichy-Cock, and we filmed 3 episodes for the debut Yeti Radio on Clock and Flat. So that's gonna air soon. and so we hung out with like NYPD, Mr. Koo, which is all these bands, and who else was it?
Rhythm or
Rhythm, yeah,
307?
Rhythm.
Yeah.
Sorry, Akira and them. So yeah, that was super fun. So yeah, I guess everything's just sort of been switched up, and we're still trying to do music stuff and projects, but like everything's gone online. So we
Yeah.
got the Overwatch League stuff coming up, and then we got yeah, I think someone texted me yesterday about Christmas plans, which is super weird. Can't believe that's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
Yeah, it's Heidi's birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Heidi. She says ha 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 about something a few minutes ago. I'm not sure. But if people want to find out about Yeti Out, where's the best place for them to go?
Himalayas.
Himalayas. Oh yeah, go to the source.
Of course, bro. You gotta go find Yeti. You gotta go find Yeti, man. You gotta go Nepal.
Yeti Out should do a like a fake, what is it, a mockumentary on finding the Yeti. That'd be hot.
The search.
You should do that.
Dude, oh man.
There was another project that you discussed before about Hong Kong. Oh no, we'll talk about.
I wanted to on my 30th. I wanted to go to do like base camp, Himalayas. I wanted to venture up there, and maybe throw a party there or something.
The DJ set.
But that was that was one of like these goals, and then we just didn't end up doing it. But I would love to go to the Himalayas, just because it's just sort of like ironic,
you know. Get like Patagonia to collab.
That'll be sick. Like just arrange a big hike, like everyone go out. That'll be sick. I think that'll be a good little pitch,
It would be encouraging like healthy activities too.
Yeah,
that's a way that Yeti Out can transition from into the 30s.
Yep. I mean, fully, man. I think, that's definitely. I mean, we definitely want to do more events and stuff when stuff goes back to normal. But like you said, with stuff that's more conscious as well, and I think for the last 10 years, it's definitely been a lot of fun. But we sort of need to work out what's next, and I think it's always evolving, so we're not too worried about it. But I like the idea of it always being malleable, and like people often don't really know if we're a brand or we're promoters or we what do these guys do. And I think that's sort of the beauty of it, because the confusion allows us to be whatever we want whenever we want, and how we feel at a given year is different, so if you check into Yeti Out this year, it's completely different from what it was in 2018 or when it was 2010 or 2011, so I think the spirit and the core is still there, but it's always changing because COVID happens, or like we change as human beings, right? Meta.
Oh my God, this guy existential.
Jeez.
On that note, any final shouts?
Love you, Mom, Dad.
Oi.
I don't know, everyone, man. This is just the list continues. Who should shout out? Shout out the bartenders, man. Always gotta shout out bartenders. Shout out the people that always mop the floor at the end of the night. Those are the unsung heroes, man. It's never really about the main act. It's about everyone else in club culture. The door girl or door boy, just everyone. I think these characters are often overlooked, but they're super important. The host, just the people serving food at 4 a.m. I think there's a lot of characters out there that are super interesting.
The power company, the people who are digging the coal to power the power company.
Power company, 100%. But yeah, I mean, shout out to the world, dude. Shout out to the world.
All right. On that note, we're gonna end it.
STFU.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for
SOS
watching.
Help.
Yeah, SOS Yeti.
SOS. Help Yeti.
Shout out to the world.
Wow. Hope that was all right.